So I wanted to record this super quick video just to kind of walk you through the data tracking infrastructure that I've built for a multi-seven-figure agency recently. They were having a problem that many agencies face when they're looking to scale, and that is data tracking. Specifically, they wanted to track all the data they need visibility into. They want to make sure that they're accurate. They want them all in one place, so without having to juggle multiple tracking systems, and obviously have that process to be as automated as possible and not rely on constant manual inputs, right? And what the system allowed the seven-figure agency to do is, first of all, understand and realize that their MRR was actually 40K lower than they actually thought, which means that they were also planning and spending based on money that was not coming into the business. And second, it allowed them to see that their best converting leads were coming from Instagram, even though they were splitting focus across 12 different channels, because all of them were working, but not to the degree that Instagram was. Like, Instagram was bringing the most qualified leads, not just any leads, like people that are just maybe window shoppers or are just there to kind of get more information than won't buy. So by fixing that and by seeing what was going on in their business, they managed to prepare a webinar, launch it in 2 weeks, and then add 20K in MRR simply by gaining visibility into what the best performing channel was and doubling down on it, right? Now, keep in mind that for the purpose of this demo, I recreated the dashboard that I built for my client. Obviously, I could not share with you the actual dashboard with their sensitive company data, but what I managed to do is just recreate it, just fill it out with dummy data, just so that you can get a better idea of what's actually possible in terms of data tracking for your business. But obviously you want this to build around your agency, the services that you offer, and the niche that you're in. So for example, let's say that you're an info agency and you have multiple clients that you want to track results for, or you fulfilled some type of service where there are clear KPIs in terms of deliverables that you want to communicate to your clients. Say, for example, a lead generation agency. In that case, you might also want a client portal that will allow you to track the results for each client and also have the ability to share each client's individual portal with them so they can see the results that they're getting with your agency in real time, which of course can help with churn, upsell rates, and a myriad of different things. Now let's start with the actual demo of the system. I'm going to walk you through the sections of the dashboard just so that you can get a better idea of kind of how this whole system works. First of all, we have the financial dashboard where we have the monthly recurring revenue section. So here you can see the total MRR, and then here you have the main offer subscriptions, upsell offer subscriptions, and downsell offer subscriptions, and how all of them are worth and how much they're contributing to MRR. Now, this client specifically also wanted a way to track together the main offer subscriptions and the upsell offer subscriptions. So here you can see that this comes out to 31 and also see what's the total of those subscriptions in terms of MRR. Obviously, if you don't need this, you can also skip this step. Here you can see the MRR changes. So here you can track what are the different changes in terms of MRR. So here you can see new MRR this month. And then here you can see the revenue lost from cancellations this month. But at the same time, some clients might have just paused. And so here you can see the actual MRR churn, which is actually money that's not gonna come in the business for that month, right? So regardless of whether they canceled or paused, this is just money that's not gonna come in for the month. And here you can see the net MRR growth. So all things considered, the new MRR minus the actual MRR churn. Here you can see by how much the MRR has grown this month. And then here you can also see how much is the MRR loss from cancellations as a percentage of active campaigns. So if you consider the total active campaigns and then how much this is compared to that, that's 4.27% of your entire MRR. And then you also obviously have the same thing for actual MRR churn. Going forward, here we have the client base changes for last month. So how many active clients did you have at the beginning of the month? How many active clients there were at the end of the month? And then the value of the MRR at the beginning and at the end of the month, and then what's the percentage change of that. So in this case, as you can see, it's a positive change because we started at 24 and then ended at 26. So that's a net growth of 8.33%. And same thing for the MRR also grew. And so that's 6.74% in actual net growth for the MRR. And then we have the same thing for this month. So how many clients do we have at the beginning of the month? What's the current amount of clients? Same thing for MRR, and then same percentage change as before. Then here you can see the paused revenue for the business broken down by offer. And this allows you to see how much revenue did you have in the business for different periods. So how much revenue was paused over 30 days ago, but less than 60 days ago, then 61 to 90 days, and then over 90 days. And this essentially allows you to see what revenue is still recoupable and what revenue is essentially lost. Because these clients right here, they're very unlikely to reactivate their subscription again, right? Then here you can see the profitability metrics where you can see the total revenue for the year, the COGS, the total costs, gross margin percentage, the gross profit, total margin before taxes, and then earnings before taxes. The sales dashboard, here you can see the sales metrics. They're broken down into two columns, one for this month and one for last month, so that this way you can make comparisons between the two. And you can say, okay, how many sales calls have you booked this month so far? How many sales calls did you book last month? And then you can see the same thing for total sales calls held, show rate, closed meetings, close rate, and then call to close percentage. On top of that, you can also see the average deal size for a sales process, and then the sales velocity, which is revenue per day, then the average sales cycle length, which is how many days does it take on average for a lead to become a client, and then the average retention months. This is pretty self-explanatory. And finally, the client also wanted to have in the sales dashboard a summary for the LTV and CAC metrics. So here you can see that the CAC for the entire business across all marketing channels is $488. Obviously, once again, these are all dummy numbers. Then here you can see the CAC payback period in days, which is how many days does it take for your business on average to repay back that cost that you've paid to acquire that customer. And then here you can see the LTV as well as the LTV to CAC ratio, which is how much money you make per every single dollar that you spend on marketing. Moving on to the marketing dashboard, we have the blended KPIs where you can see the total costs, the total booked calls, cost per book call, total clients, CAC, leads to contract, LTV, total revenue, and then ROI. These are obviously blended KPIs, so essentially it takes the total costs across all channels and then the total revenue for the entire business and then calculates the ROI based on that, and then obviously breaks it down for the kind of like the average for the entire business. Then you can see your marketing performance for the month. So here you can see the total calls that were booked this month, the marketing costs month to date, cost per book call, and then cost per call closed. Then here you can see the performance of all the marketing channels broken down in detail. So here you can see the ad spend in the last 24 hours, in the last 7 days, in the last 30 days, and then this year so far. Here you can see how many leads did you get, the cost per lead, total clients, cost per acquisition, total revenue, and then of course from that the ROAS. And as you can see here, you have the same metrics for Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Of course, you can add any other marketing channels if you have them. Here at the bottom, you can also track the referrals, so you can see total revenue, booked calls, total clients, and average deal size. And also, if you have like a WAP or school community as part of your acquisition process, you can also track here the performance of that WAP or school. So here you can see, you can track the members, community growth rate, members added last week, members lost last week, net community growth, and then number of people who attended this week's call. Say, for example, you have weekly calls in your community. Obviously, the people who attend those calls will be more qualified leads, and so you can instruct your team to reach out to them and try to book them into your calendar. Now, moving on to the client success and retention dashboard. Here you can see you have the churn metrics, so you have the currently active deals, and then 2 columns, one for the cancellations and one for cancellations plus post deals. So this is the same thing that I've mentioned before. You have a way to track cancellations and then actual MRR churn, right? So here you can see that you can track clients churn this month, churn rate, revenue loss from cancellations this month, and then MRR loss from cancellations as a percentage of active campaigns. Here we then have the client success and retention metrics. So we have the average retention months, the net revenue retention percentage for last month. This essentially tells you how much of the revenue that you had last month did you retain. So if you consider the revenue that you had at the beginning of last month versus what you had at the end of this month, here you can see because it's greater than 100%, it means that you not only retained all of the revenue, but you actually grew your MRR. And then you have the same figure for this month. Then here you have the net client retention percentage for last month. So while this is the percentage change in the dollar value amount, this is the actual percentage change in the number of clients. And once again, you have it both for last month and then for this month. And here you have the client activation rate as well as the time to first deal in days. Moving on, we have the satisfaction KPIs. Here you can see you have the client NPS or average satisfaction score. This is a metric that should be tracked through a separate client success tracking dashboard that your team can update based on the information that they get on those weekly calls with your clients, as well as through weekly forms that you can send to your clients in order to understand their level of satisfaction with your service. Then here you can track the total number of tickets that were submitted by active clients, as well as the support ticket volume. Then you can also track the number of clients engaging weekly in your school or WAP calls. We already seen that. And then finally, we have the percentage of clients engaging weekly on the one-to-one calls with your team. Then once again, you have this data for both this week and last week so that you can draw comparisons between the two. Here we then have the refund rate. So you can see active clients day 1 for this month, total subscriptions value day 1 this month, clients refunded, amount refunded, and then based on that, you can see the refund rate in terms of number of clients, as well as the refund rate in terms of the actual amount, right? So 7.9K on top of 103, that's 7.65% of your entire MRR being refunded for the month. Then here we can also track the upsell metric, so the number of upsells that you had last week, the value of those upsells, and then the number of upsells for this week and the value of those upsells as well. Then finally, here we have the renewal metrics, so the active clients and the number of active clients who renewed, and that gives you the renewal rate. Now moving on to the fulfillment metrics. This is obviously going to vary widely depending on the type of service that you offer. But in this case, they're a type of lead generation agencies. So for them, they wanted to track the average amount of hours spent per client, the average leads delivered per client per month, as well as the deal conversion rate. Finally, we have the CEO and growth strategy dashboard, which essentially allows you to have the entire health and performance of your entire business into one accurate view. So here you can track, for example, the booked meetings, and you can easily see the number of booked calls this week, the target of weekly booked calls, and the percentage to the target. Then here you can track the performance of your closed sales, so you can see how many clients do we have this week, new clients this month, closed meetings last month, as well as the closed meetings percentage change. Then here you can once again see your total subscriptions, so you can see the total MRR, as well as the MRR broken down by offer. And then finally here you can see your agency's financial health, so you can see how much cash do you have in the bank, your revenue, expenses, profit before taxes, tax percentage rate, or at least expected one, the tax liability, and from that you get the net income. Now, the way the system is kept accurate is primarily through N8N automations, even though some manual input will be needed for those metrics that we cannot get through the API, but nonetheless the system is designed to be as simple as possible, so that all that your team needs to do is simply click the plus button here, and then for every single dashboard there will be a form for those metrics that we're missing. And then all that I need to do is simply fill out here the current date for the report, and this once again can be a weekly form, fill in the missing values, click create, and then they're done. Like the dashboard will then take the data and use it to automatically fill out and compute the missing values. And then of course, as I mentioned before, a system like this works hand in hand with a client success tracking dashboard, as well as a client portal that will allow you to track the results for every individual client, and also have the ability to share that view with your client so that they can see the results that they've been getting with your agency in real time. So this is a case study that I wanted to share with you, just to kind of show you what's possible for your business in terms of data tracking. If you have any questions about this tracking infrastructure or about an operations problem in your business, feel free to drop a comment down below or reach out to me in social media. I am at Luca Grisolia on all platforms. And if you're interested in having a solution like this custom built for your agency, then you can book a call with the first link down below to talk to me or my team.